Good afternoon, Robert Scribbler. It is May 21st, 2019. Thank you for joining me for another climate change and clean energy video blog. Now, for this segment, I am going to provide for you a run-through of NASA's recent global temperature data for the month of April. But before I do that, I have some context to set and a couple of announcements to make. The announcement that I would like to make is that I am going to be working to follow the new Guardian style guide provided by the Guardian publication on the issue of human-caused climate crisis. I am going to be switching, when I can, the terms climate change with climate crisis and the term global warming with global heating. And the reason for that is that at present, we are seeing crisis type impacts from the human forced heating that we are now seeing across the global system. And these crisis type impacts, in my opinion, represent the first turn of the ratchet for the human forced climate crisis that we are now seeing. We are starting to see some pain. And this crisis is causing such impacts as ocean health decline, loss of corals wholesale around the globe, increased extreme weather events like we are seeing today and have seen over past days in the central US, which has a bit of a climate crisis fingerprint on it, and wholesale melting of glaciers around the world, which is ramping up global sea level rise and threatening coastal and island communities practically everywhere. These just a few elements of the present global climate crisis that is now ongoing, to include threats to hundreds of thousands of animal species and to human habitation and habitability for tens of millions of human beings across the globe. Now, the primary driver of the climate crisis, as we have mentioned many times, is fossil fuel burning, which is now elevating atmospheric greenhouse gases, primarily carbon dioxide, which is the primary driver of the global climate crisis, at present above 415 parts per million. Carbon dioxide is a heat-trapping gas. It is also identified as NASA as the main regulator of the global thermostat, particularly over the long term. And at present, it looks like atmospheric carbon dioxide values as measured at the Mauna Loa Observatory are likely to average in the range above 414 parts per million, possibly in the mid 414 part per million range for the month of May. We have seen daily averages recently exceed 415 parts per million, and weekly averages hit around 415 parts per million. Our understanding of paleoclimate implies that these atmospheric carbon dioxide levels are the highest seen in at least 2 million years and possibly extending as far back as 15 million years. These elevated atmospheric carbon dioxide levels combined with other greenhouse gases produced by human activity is the major driver of the present global climate crisis we are seeing and of present global heating. Getting to the details of present global temperatures provided by NASA, we find that temperatures for the month of April were the second hottest on record for the entire 139-year global climate record. And this record keeping began in 1880, and as of April of 2019, global temperatures averaged about 0.99 degrees Celsius above NASA's 20th century baseline, which is a basic mid-20th century range, and about 1.21 degrees Celsius above 1880s averages, which represent the start of the NASA monitor. Looking at NASA's visible anomalies map, and this map basically provides departures from normal temperatures for various regions of the globe, we find that the higher latitude regions of the northern hemisphere experienced the warmest temperatures for April, the hottest departures for April, and the highest departures from normal, with temperatures in parts of the Arctic region ranging as high as 8.2 degrees Celsius hotter than normal for sections near Greenland and the extreme North Atlantic, as well as parts of the Barents Sea and the Arctic Ocean near Svalbard, as well as through a section of northeastern Russia and a large region of the East Siberian Sea. Overall, temperatures for most of the Arctic environment ranged above 2 degrees Celsius above typical mid-20th century averages, with zonal averages ranging in the area of about 3.75 degrees Celsius above typical temperatures for the zone of the 75-degree north latitude region, in about this range here. These much hotter than normal temperatures for the polar zone are an aspect of polar amplification, which is an upshot of the human forced climate crisis driven by fossil fuel burning, in which elevated greenhouse gas levels tend to preferentially warm the poles, such that polar temperatures tend to rise faster than lower latitude temperatures. Now, another aspect of the high April temperatures that we saw are much hotter to much hotter than normal temperatures over the equatorial region of the Earth. This driven in part by a weak El Nino type event, which is helping to push equatorial temperatures higher as well. But looking at the zonal averages, we find that though equatorial temperatures are hotter than most other latitudinal ranges, the northern hemisphere polar and near polar zone is a major outlier. Looking at the distribution of the small cool pools we find that the persistence of the North Atlantic cool pool just south and east of Greenland remains notable. This is a predicted cooler zone predicted by climate models produced by scientists and is related to Greenland melt, in which freshwater and cooler freshwater tends to cool this portion of the North Atlantic. This counter trend cool pool is not only an aspect of Greenland melt, but it is also a contributor to weather instability in the North Atlantic region, to include sections of North America, Europe, and the Arctic as well. Overall, as you see, that most regions of the world were hotter to much hotter than normal for the month of April. And this is an aspect of an ongoing trend of global heating that we have seen for most of the 20th century and running into the 21st century, with rates of temperature increases accelerating in the latter portion of the period. Comparing temperatures to the past record hot year of 2016, 2019 is now tracking in the range of second to third hottest on record. And Dr. Gavin Schmidt, who is head of NASA GISS, is presently predicting, according to his own analysis, that temperatures for 2019 are likely to range between fifth and first hottest on record, with a most likely range in the second to fourth hottest on record zone, as you can see by both by the error bar here provided by Dr. Gavin Schmidt and by the midpoint. Dr. Gavin's previous predictions based on global temperature analysis have been spot on, so this is a good predictive analysis feature, complete with a good range in the form of an error bar here. So overall, atmospheric temperatures ranged second hottest on record for April. We saw much warmer, much hotter than normal temperatures in the northern hemisphere polar zone, which is consistent with polar amplification related to human-forced global heating, which is primarily driven by fossil fuel burning. And these much hotter than normal global temperature averages for the month of April occurred in the context of highly elevated atmospheric carbon dioxide levels, now spiking into a range of 415 parts per million, carbon dioxide being the primary greenhouse or heat-trapping gas that is driving the global climate crisis that we now see today. Thank you for joining me, and I'll be chatting with you soon.